Right, hello everyone. So we've got a bit of a controversial video today. So I kind of really want to first of all say, like, let's all be nice to each other in the comment section. We can have our opinions, but they don't need to be nasty. We can be civil and kind and all that stuff. So anyway, this is a video about race swapping in movies. It's all come about because I've been watching a lot of the backlash that the Odyssey's getting. And I kind of wanted to throw my 2 cents into this like discussion and how I feel about it. So I'm one of these weird people that kind of like sees things from all sides. I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm also jumping from one side to the other to the fence because I think a lot of it, we'll get into it. You'll understand what I mean when we get into it. So anyway, the Odyssey comes out, the trailer's just dropped online on YouTube, and it's the most unliked trailer ever to have appeared on YouTube. It beats Snow White, and I'm going to get into Snow White in a minute. Now, most of the reason for this isn't because people think the story looks silly or the movie looks silly, it's because of the casting choices. Now, the two most notable out of the casting choices that everyone's kind of a little bit up in arms about is the Elliot Page casting as Achilles, and I get that and I'll explain why in a minute, and the casting of, I'm not going to pronounce the name because I will butcher it, I'm rubbish at stuff like this, so I'm just going to write a name now. Apologise, I don't even want to try it and pronounce it because I will get it wrong and I'll look like silly and also I might offend people. So that's the casting choice that everyone's upset about. Let's go Achilles first. Now, why Achilles isn't a race swap problem, I kind of want to address it anyway. So this is a situation where Elliot Page was formerly Ellie Page, a very good young actress who decided she wanted to transition into becoming a male or a boy, and has now gone through that transition, is now Elliot Page, and has been cast as Achilles. Now, the funny thing about me is it doesn't bother me what Elliot Page was and is and all the situation around his life. What bothers me is the stature and size of Elliot Page. And I had the same problem when Brad Pitt played Achilles back in Troy. The problem I had is the fact that Achilles is this legendary, unstoppable warrior, blessed by the gods to be perfect on a battlefield. Yet, Elliot Page and Brad Pitt in many ways is to me too small to play that role. See, if I was going to cast Achilles, if I ever get picked to be a Hollywood director, which will never happen, but if it ever does, I'd get Brock Lesnar from the WWE to play Achilles, because I want a hulking, massive, destructive force that looks like he'll mow down an entire army by himself. That's what I want from my Achilles. I want like the Mountain from Game of Thrones. I want this massive guy, and as I said, Brock Lesnar will be perfect because he's got a look about him as well. He's got like that chisel. He's huge. He's chiseled. He looks like he's had a beating as well, which if you're a warrior, if you're going to become a perfect warrior, you need to have taken a beating in training to become that perfect warrior. You're not going to be flawless the whole way through. You're going to have damage, and you're going to use that damage to make you better. That's what I want. So to me, that would be the perfect casting. Elliot Page, yes, you're now a man, and you look in great. I mean, I saw a picture of him, like he's huge. He's really like as in like toned, strong, but not warrior big giant strong. Also still got that feminine height thing. So like this is your Achilles is down here, and like I want my Achilles to be like up here, like, you know what I mean? Like that's what I want. So and it's the same with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was too good looking to be Achilles in that movie. I wanted a chiseled war veteran. Yet we got Brad Pitt, and God, we all want to like Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt, he's not the fearsome warrior type. Good movie, great Troy is a great movie. Fantastic movie, and Brad Pitt's quite good in that movie, but to me I always kept thinking that's not what I want for my Achilles. Now on to Helen of Troy. Helen of Troy is written down in legend as being the most beautiful woman on the planet. Not only is she written down as being the most beautiful woman on the planet, she's also Greek. Now there wasn't that many black people living in Greece back then. I don't think there was any like black people living in Greece back then, so that kind of doesn't make sense for that reason. Also, the actress playing, while she is a phenomenal actress, I cannot diss her in her acting abilities, she's not everyone's cup of tea in the way she looks. I don't think she looks that bad. I think she's quite a pretty girl, but like a lot of people have got an issue with it. Same with the Supergirl thing. A lot of people had an issue with the way she looked, and I was like, I don't think she looks that bad. But like some people have said, oh, like if we wanted the most beautiful woman in the world, we should have had like, I don't know, who's beautiful, like Megan Fox or something like that, playing Helen of Troy. Someone whose beauty is thought about more than it. The beauty side should be more important than the rest of it. But I could argue that this actress, we don't know, right? So when we sit down to watch this movie, what I want to happen more than anything in the world. I sit down and watch this movie, and for the first 5 seconds I go, she shouldn't be black. And then as she starts acting, and suddenly I forget that, and the rest of the movie, that doesn't cross my mind because I'm blown away by a performance. I'm blown away by the movie. That's what I want to happen. Same with Elliot Page. I want to do the same thing. I want to be able to watch that and then suddenly be like, what's going on in the movie? It doesn't matter that the stature's wrong. For that few seconds, I'm like, ugh, and then it doesn't matter. But like with the Brad Pitt thing, when I watched Troy, it kept coming back to me like, there's no way you could beat that guy. There's no way like he could be, because he didn't look that way. So it kind of like got under my skin watching the movie. And this is the thing, the problem people have with these movies today, is that this is what happens. It gets under your skin. And where Hollywood's trying to be progressive, it's shoving it in our faces. It's almost like going, look at what we've got in our movie. You need to see this. You need to be as progressive as we are. And the audience is going like, get that hand out of my face. Like, get that. I don't want to push it. And we push back. If you gently put this in there, if you say like, right, we've got this movie coming out. It's a big movie. We've cast everyone in white. We need some black representation because representation is mattering right now. We need someone in there. Make a couple of soldiers, but make it a little bit less obvious, or give a different casting. But don't give the main characters in a way. Don't make them the, look at what we've done with our main characters. We've made this one black and this one, this is Elliot Page, and we need to show you that we are progressive. And it's, don't do that. And sadly, that's what they've done. When the trailers come out, they've done that. The trailer's done that, and everyone's just gone and pushed back with their little thumbs down buttons on the older YouTube. And that's why it's now the most hated trailer ever. And his predecessor, Snow White, fell victim to this as well. Snow White, obviously, they cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White. It was the first, one of the things that they did a lot wrong with that movie. But one of the things they did wrong with that movie was cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White. A lot of people kick back on that one because Snow White is written as the girl with skin as white as winter snow. That was the description of her in all the books, all the legends, the Disney, they used to being white as well, the original Disney movie. Rachel Zegler came along and was like, was a tan girl in this role, and everyone was like, well, that's wrong because she should be white as winter snow. And they could have, I mean, Rachel Zegler, it has an amazing voice. The girl, when she opens her mouth and sings, it's like, wow. Which is probably why they originally wanted to cast her in the first place. They needed that voice. However, they could have easily gone to the Broadway, to the West End of London, musical theatre world, and just gone, we need to find a girl whose skin is white as winter snow and has the voice of an angel. And I'm sure there's a plethora of them in that world. They could have got an unknown and shoved it in there, but they've got Rachel Zegler instead. It caused some controversy. Then, if that weren't enough, they went, we need to be more progressive. We're not happy with the dwarves because we think that's upsetting little people. We're taking the dwarves out and we're putting magical people in. And each one of them is going to represent a different type of ethnic minority. It's going to be great. We're going to be so progressive. Like that. Look at our progressive magic people. And the dwarves, the people you think might be like, fair enough. They were like, no, the dwarves were more upset than anyone else. They were like, hang on a minute. This is a role for us. This is our role. This is the most famous role for a dwarf that has ever been. Other than like, I don't know, whatever's the dwarf's been. But that is the one, I'm blank now. That is the role that is the most famous dwarf role ever written, and you've just taken it away from dwarfs. It's like saying like, I don't know, like Lion King is the greatest role ever made for a lion, and we're going to replace the lions with dolphins. You're like, ugh, it's just so bad. The dwarfs kicked back so much, and they were like so angry about it. And then Disney went, oh no, we've upset the dwarfs. We've upset the minority. We need to fix this. Scrap the magical people. We're now going to CGI the dwarves. And the dwarfs, the dwarfs in real life, the little people, I don't know the correct term for them. I know it's not the M word, but we know it's they were like, I still want the job, because that's the thing. Because like we have things called pantomimes in the UK. They happen every Christmas for like a good few months over the Christmas period. And it's a tradition in England. It's a phenomenal event. If you're ever in the UK and at Christmas time, go and watch a pantomime. It is very quintessentially British, and it is an amazing. It's basically fairy tales done on stage in a production. The production is always quite lavish and over the top, a little bit camp in places, but it's also hilarious and comical. It's aimed both at kids and adults on two different levels. So the kids' humour's here, the adult humour's here. Everyone gets sung out of a pantomime, and usually they're based around fairy tales. So Cinderella, like, I don't know, Little Mermaid, anything like that. All these classic fairy tales are always based around, and Snow White is obviously a massive one. And they always hire dwarfs to play the 7 dwarfs. And it works so well. I actually had a funny experience once. I was in a place called Dartford, which is kind of like the edge of Kent. And they've got a theatre there called the Orchard. And it was leading up to Christmas. I think it was like November time. I went into Dartford and I was like, look, I can't remember why I was in Dartford. I was looking around Dartford. And I came out of the train station and walked down to the town centre. And you have to walk past the Orchard Theatre. And I was walking past the Orchard Theatre. And I something made me want to turn. I turned round and I literally saw 7 dwarfs in a row walking across the road behind me. And my brain just was like, this can't be real. This can't be happening. What is going on? Like, my brain couldn't comprehend. There were 7 dwarfs walking in front of me in a line. And I was like, I wish it was back in the day, because this was before we had the camera phones. I would have taken a photo of that, video of that, because I'd have shared that. That would have gone viral. But I was just like, what is going on? And then I realised that they were walking like towards the theatre, because they were the cast of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. They'd obviously gone for lunch break while doing rehearsals or shopping, or they'd done something, and they'd all gone together. And the fact they crossed the line, it was like, this is the most perfect image my brain has ever seen. And it's one of the greatest things I'd ever seen, that I wished I had a camera phone back then to take a photo of it, because it was joyful. And I felt good for the rest of the day. So I kept seeing that image in my head and just feeling joy in my heart. So yeah, dwarfs are really angry about the fact they took out essentially their people from that role. It's kind of for them, I suppose, like if we did a film about Native American Indians and replaced them with like Chinese people, and then it would be like, everyone would be like, what? And the Native American Indians would be like, hang on a minute, that was my role. You know, you can imagine the anger. So that's why the dwarfs kind of got upset as well. So totally understand the backlash that Snow White got. And I do think they could have easily cast someone else in Rachel Zegler's role, even though she's a phenomenal voice. And I also think that destroyed the movie. I think that movie would have been a lot more well received had they not have done this. And I think the Odyssey is going to be the same. There's going to be such a backlash. It's going to totally overshadow the movie. The movie could be phenomenal, but the controversy is going to be more talked about than the movie itself. So this has happened in the past. There are other examples, like back on Native American Indians, why not? Johnny Depp in The Lone Ranger. So Johnny Depp was cast as Tonto in the Lone Ranger movie. And it was like, and he's supposed to be Native American. And you got like one of the most famous white actors on the planet to play him. It was kind of, it's like, why would you do that? When there are a lot of quite good Native American actors out there that could have easily filled that role. Maybe someone lesser known would have been better in that role, you know what I mean? That's the way I like it. Because sometimes when you get a lesser known figure in a main role, it helps you not see the actor behind it. Like if you get Tom Cruise to play King Arthur, you're going to keep seeing Tom Cruise. But if you get Joe Smith to play King Arthur, you're like, wow, that's King Arthur. Do you know what I mean? It does something to your brain. So that will be good as well. So that's one. I know that Angelina Jolie was cast in the Wanted movie, but originally the comic books, it's a black African American actor. They cast Angelina Jolie. There's a little bit of a thing about that. So there are times when it really hasn't worked. And it's kind of been a detriment to the film, because then all everyone's talking about is, why did they do that? Now, recently, the most recent time when they've race swapped, and I actually think this one worked, and a few here I'm going to talk about now, the ones that actually worked, was, or ones you don't notice, is when they put in a character where you don't really, it's not thrust in your face. So they released a trailer for Master of the Universe, and Idris Elba is playing Man-at-Arms. And a lot of people went like, why? Oh, like, he's black, Man-at-Arms is white. And Man-at-Arms, the action figure is originally based on, was white. The cartoon, he was white. The movie in the 80s, he was white. So you can understand the bit of the backlash. But then you watch the movie, and Idris Elba nails that character perfectly. And he was phenomenal, because this is the character that's like the most emotional arc in the movie. So it's this chiseled war veteran that's now guardian of the king, and he basically fails at his job. He doesn't guard the king. Skeletor takes over, and then you get this whole storyline where you see Idris Elba years later. He's still crushed by this. Still feels guilty because he couldn't protect his planet. Still feels guilty because he couldn't save the king. All this pressure is on him. He feels responsible for everything crumbling. And you get this arc with him, and then it's him like rising up again and like, actually, I can win this. I can win the day. I can fulfill, like, can save the people of Eternia. I can do what I didn't do in the past. You get that sort of arc. And Idris Elba does that perfectly. And because Idris Elba is the kind of actor that kind of looks chiseled anyway, he kind of has that almost military like look about him. He plays a copper in a lot of things. He plays it really well. He plays a hard or tough character in most things, but he's also got a bit of a sense of humour and a bit of like likability to him. So it worked fantastically. So I think him playing Man at Arms was a phenomenal casting choice, and I'll never say anything against that because it was brilliant. And as a man who's in his 40s that loved that cartoon show and loved nostalgia, that film was basically made for me, I feel, and I think they did a great job of it. Another one that worked really well, Batman. So the most recent Batman had Robert Pattinson as Batman. Commissioner Gordon was played by a black man. First time I've ever seen this, and it was done so well. It was done because it wasn't shoved in your face. It wasn't like, I'm black and I'm Commissioner Gordon. It was none of that. It was literally just like he was in a crime scene. Batman's talking to him. He's going through the motions. It helped that the actor that played him was a great actor. One of those actors whose name you don't know, but you recognise him from various different things. And everything he's been in, he's been phenomenal. It's that, he was in the Hunger Games as well. I can't remember, again, I can't remember his name now I'm talking about it. Somebody should come up with this off my head. He was phenomenal. Again, another DC comic book thing, Perry White, in the Snyderverse universe, Superman universe, Perry White was the guy that runs the newspaper. Normally predicted as a white character in pretty much every incarnation ever. In that, Lawrence Fishburne did the role. Played it perfectly. Almost unnoticeable that Perry White, you don't go, oh my God, Perry White's like that. It's unnoticeable. And that's when it's better. If you trinkle these things in instead of shoving them in your face, it's better. If I wanted to show you a picture of, if I wanted to show you this book, right? I want to show you this book. If I'm going, look at this book, look at this book, look at this book, you're going to be like, get that book out of my face. But if I want you, see this book? It's pretty good, isn't it? Like that. You're going to be more interested. But if I'm like, look at this book, you're going to get the ump. You're going to be really angry. I don't even know what this book is. Hide and Seek Pig. There you go. That's what that book is. You're going to get the ump. And that's what's happening now. People are getting the ump because they're shoving it in our face like that. And that's where the issue is. But if you sprinkle it in, it works so much better. Another example of where it worked, and it was amazing, Shawshank Redemption. Not many people know that Shawshank Redemption is based on a book. Phenomenal film. I think the film has outdone the book because so many people love the movie, don't know it's based on a book. And here's the kicker, it's written by Stephen King, the best-selling author of all time, one of the greatest authors of all time. It's written by him. And the movie kind of just outdid the book in a way because everyone loves that movie. I don't know anyone sat down and watched Shawshank Redemption and gone, this is rubbish. I don't know anyone that's ever done that. People are blown away by it. It's one of those movies where it can sort of like make you laugh, cry, feel scared, feel anxious, like be completely blown away and surprised, especially when the ending happens and you're like, what the heck is going on here? You feel for those characters. And part of the reason is because Morgan Freeman is in that movie, playing the character of Red. They need to understand he's called Red. The reason he's called Red is because in the book, he's a white red-headed person, like right ginger person. So the prisoners nicknamed him Red, which is why that's what his name is. It makes no sense for Morgan Freeman to be called Red. So then but then Morgan Freeman in that movie as a black character, an actor, fits perfectly. Because you've got to think, back in the day, if you were black, no matter what crime you did, you're going to have the book thrown at you. You're going to be sent to prison over, like they're going to throw the book more at him because he's black. So he'd be in that prison for longer because of that very reason. So the fact, and the character, the way he fits in the prison, the things he does in the prison, makes total sense. And Morgan Freeman, sort of like the way he puts his culture in there and himself, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You can almost, on the Morgan Freeman front, argue the same thing for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Now, when that movie come out, first thing people went, why is Robin Hood American? Why is Kevin Costner Robin Hood? So people were a little bit thing by that. And then it was like, when was there a black man in England back then? Again, there wouldn't be. They kind of explained a bit in the movie how it was a Saracen who was fighting the same war, and because Robin Hood saved his life, he kind of had a bond with him, like a life debt sort of thing, and they sort of travelled together. They didn't explain Kevin Costner's accent at any point, but it doesn't matter because the film ended up being amazing. Now, I love Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I think that is one of the greatest films ever done. It's so much fun, and Alan Rickman playing the sheriff is just one of the best portrayals of a villain in a movie ever. If I ever wanted to become a villain in a movie, that would be one of the things I'd be studying. There's something so charismatic about him and so evil, it's brilliant. It's kind of like Jared Leto playing the Skeletor in the new Master of the Universe movie, because he's that like charismatic, evil for the sake of being evil villain. And it's kind of like Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood. It's a fantastic portrayal. But Morgan Freeman is also amazing in that role that he plays. He brings a little bit of like calmness and like logic to this like crazy Sherwood world that they're living in. And he's got his plans, and he's there, he's kind of like a guidance, and they do the whole like racing where he goes. There's a fantastic scene in Robin Hood where one of the women's pregnant, she's about to have a baby, but there's a problem with the birth. And Morgan Freeman comes in, he's like, I know how to help this. And there's a bit like, oh no, he's going to use black witchcraft, he's going to use voodoo magic, and like they're trying like, the husband has to get pulled out. And Kevin Costner's like, no, we need to let him do this. I think he can do something good. And he ends up saving the baby and the mum by like, he cuts her open. Obviously they hadn't done that back then, but because he'd done it in part of his like culture, they sort of worked out how to do this. And it's such a great scene because then you get the dad who sort of embraces Morgan Freeman as like, I understand now, like, we aren't different, and you've just saved my wife. Such a lovely scene. It kind of chokes me up a little bit because it's such a great scene. And again, Morgan Freeman, being the actor that he is, can portray that. So that's another instance of where race swapping kind of works. And adding like a figure for diversity's sake, which I don't even know if it was for, it was just a case of Morgan Freeman's great, we want him in a movie. But to do it for diversity's sake, you need to trickle it in. If you trickle it in, and it's the same with anything in society, if you try and force it onto people, people will push back and kick back and like bat you out of the way. But if you trickle it in, no one notices. And suddenly it's just part of the world and no one cares. That's how it should be done in movies as well. Just trickle it in. Don't shove it in our face. They purposely, in the trailers, when you see it, it's like, they like get the black character, put him at the front of the screen. Look what we've got. That's literally what they're doing. And it ruins the movie because now everyone's going into that movie with this like, there's black people in it. Like, I don't know if that's to try and to make more black people go to the cinema. I don't know why they do. I know you want to be represented. You want to see it, like Black Panther did it really well with the Marvel stuff. Like Marvel realised years ago that all of their characters are predominantly white. And the world was changing a little bit, and there were more black people starting to appear, like in America and stuff. And they were, and these are the kids they want to buy the comics. And now we need to get characters to appeal to kids of black, because obviously all the black kids are reading Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, everyone's white that they're reading. There's no one to kind of look like them in a way. So then they released Black Panther. Now you've got a black superhero that the kids go, hey, he looks like me, I can dress up like him, it will look fantastic. That's why these characters, that's what they need to do. Instead of going back and going, right, we're going to take Thor when they're going to turn him black because he should be black. And you're like, but he was a Norse god. Why is it won't make sense. So what Marvel, what Stan Lee did, and all the Marvel execs and like did back then, they just come up with a new character and made him black. Recently, they obviously, Spider-Man is a white character. They wanted a new character. They kind of wanted to link it to Spider-Man. So they come up with Miles Morales, a black Hispanic kid that gets the similar power to Spider-Man, kind of becomes like Spider-Man's protege, and eventually becomes his own hero, Miles Morales Spider-Man. So there are now two Spider-Men, the white one and the black one, but it's still like, there's a bit of a representation there. And the Miles Morales character is a phenomenal character. He's doing really well in sort of the sales and stuff. He's now his own like cartoon shows. I'm pretty sure if we're not going to see him in this Spider-Man film, he's going to turn up in the next one. I have a feeling we're going to see a Miles Morales movie some point very, very soon. It's probably out, it's probably a bit too late. It should be out a while ago. So, and these are characters that these people can relate to, but do not turn a character we've already got into something else, because that's what's going to upset people. That's what's going to cause the pushback. Because yeah, I mean, you've got to remember, all the comic books and stuff were all written in a time when America was 90% white. Now, it's a lot less than that, so obviously it makes sense that you've got to give more things. So obviously in American movie studios, they're going like, we need to put more black people in movies, we need to put more different, we need to put more gay people, we need to add more from different minorities and different like cultural groups into our movies so we can represent everyone. But when they do it too much, it ruins it. It completely ruins the movie because it takes you away from it. Like I can see in the future there's going to be a film about like the Nazis invading Poland. A whole film about that. And there's like 20 Nazi soldiers marching along. 10 of them are black and Hispanic. And it's like you're looking at it thinking, that wouldn't happen. And it takes you out of the movie. But they're going to do it just to be progressive because they haven't got enough. And they get to Poland and the Jewish people are there. And there's like black Jewish people. It would be like, it's not, I don't think this is working. And our brains would just be like, but that doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? And a friend of mine, I've had this conversation with a friend of mine, she's a very educated woman, and I hold her opinions quite in high regard when we talk about stuff, and she's like into films as well. So I was kind of talking about the Odyssey trailer with her, like, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that? And she said something, I kind of want to, I took a screenshot of what she said, and I'm going to read it out here. I'll write it down a bit, but I'm going to read it out here. She said that I was missing the difference between fictional characters and recognised historical figures. And that there is a course for artistic licence on figures less known. And what she's basically trying to get was the fact that, like, you can't change a historical figure, race swap an historical figure, but you can race swap figures that are mythological historical figures in a way. So ones that are like fictional historical figures, because some fiction has kind of become history over time with like myths and legends, like the Norse myths and legends are kind of almost, they're not stories, they're not truth, but there's some weird combination of both and have become a cultural thing. Same with us in like the stories of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Mythology that kind of feels like it's history and it's become part of our culture. You know what I mean? That's the weirdest thing about it. Now, so I know that some of the arguments, whenever you get like the Helen of Troy argument, a lot of people are saying, if I made Nelson Mandela a white man, you'd have a problem with it. And you're right. We all would have, everyone would have a problem with that. It makes no sense why you would cast him as a white person. If Hollywood ever did that, I think I'd just stop watching movies altogether. I think I'd be like, right, I'm done, see ya. And that'll be the end of me. I'd have had enough at that point. It's just too much. And it's something like Adolf Hitler. You couldn't get a black man to play Adolf Hitler. It would be stupid. But if those characters didn't really exist, they were figments of our imaginations that have become almost like history, then you could try and change it. It wouldn't make any sense to do it, but it wouldn't be as purposeful. Like the movie Titanic. If they made the movie The Titanic now, like the Leonardo DiCaprio one, and they put a lot more black people in that movie as part of the hierarchy, it wouldn't make sense. There was no real black people with that much money and status that would have been on the Titanic. Wouldn't have happened, right? You can't make the captain of the Titanic black. It wouldn't make sense. You could make people working underneath the decks maybe black if you wanted to, but you need to be sensible about these things. Like there's an argument, like Batman could be a black man. There's an argument that Batman could be a black man. Why can't he be black, right? Because no black man in America, especially the time that was made, would have that much wealth. That's old money. That's passed down, inherited wealth that Bruce Wayne has so he can be Batman. I couldn't be Batman because I haven't got two pennies to rub together. A black person, even if they've done really well and gone up in society and they're millionaires and all that, they don't have the inherited wealth Bruce Wayne has. No black man would have that. Maybe a Sultan of Brunei, maybe a Sultan somewhere out there, that person could be Batman, quite easily could be Batman. But sadly, in America, there's no black man that's accumulated that much wealth to be Bruce Wayne. That's the whole point, it's that inherited wealth. These millionaire, probably committing tax fraud people that have accumulated that much wealth. And that's the point of like why certain characters can't be certain characters. And it will take you out of what you're watching. I hope everything I've saying makes sense to people. And obviously you have the right to argue with some of the points I've made. Like, tell me if I'm wrong as well. Especially tell me if I'm wrong. And see if I can understand your point of view on it. That's what the comment section is for. But as I always say, be nice in the comment section. This is a very controversial subject that invokes rage in people. We don't need to rage. Just write your opinions in the comments and someone will say, actually, I think this. It's fine. We can all talk like that. We don't need to get aggressive and nasty with each other. We don't need to be that much about it because we're all friends. Let's just enjoy ourselves, you know what I mean? And that's why I kind of wanted to make this, because I wanted to kind of, like, I've seen a lot of like people arguing about it in a nice positive way, and I've seen a lot of people being vile about it and really nasty. And maybe some of the things I've said today you might think, oh, that's going a bit too far. Call me up on it, write it in the comments, let me know if you think I've gone a bit too far and I've said something about someone. Like, I know one of the points that I kind of struggled saying was the fact that the woman that's now playing Helen of Troy isn't everyone's cup of tea in the looks department. That's a horrible thing to say, but I couldn't think of another way to say it. Other, like, you know what I mean? Like, we all have this architectural thing in our head of what beauty is, and there's a beauty standard, and there's always been like a beauty standard. And then, but then other people are beautiful in other ways. But like, it's not the standard of like, when you want to say this is the most beautiful thing in the world. Like, if I wanted to say, I'm going to make a statue of the most beautiful thing in the world, I'm not going to put like something disgusting or ugly in there. I'm going to put something beautiful in there, like a rose or a diamond or something that people believe to be beautiful. I might even believe it myself, but I want to feel the thing that most people believe to be beautiful. That's what I think of like the Helen Troy character. If she's like godly beauty, it's going to be the gods who've created something that's going to look the way she looks, and they're going to do it for what the majority of people think is beauty. I hope I've explained that well. Like I said, the comment section is yours. Just all I'm asking for is that we be nice. We don't use any dodgy slurs or anything like that. We just keep it nice and simple. Although I'm happy for you to all use the word woke, because it's weird, isn't it? Some people are too much, and that's the point as well, because on both sides you've got the people that are really pushing back against this, that are too much that way, and you've got the people on the other side that are pushing for this, that are equally too much. Both of them are too much. And you've got the guys that are kind of standing outside going like, I've got my point of view, you've got your point of view, I understand yours, you understand mine, but we're never going to agree on it, but we still understand each other. That's how we all should be in the world. We shouldn't be, you are wrong, everything you say is wrong. It should be like, I don't agree with you, but I get why you think that way, and your experience is you're the way you are. Now, I will say, I've just noticed something. I've got all these flags up behind me. That is not about an agenda at all. We're currently having the World Cup in football, or Americans like to say soccer, but we're still going to call it football. We're having the World Cup, so there's obviously a lot of, my kids want to celebrate the World Cup and England being in the World Cup. That's why these flags are up. There's no other reason the flags are up. But like, I stand on that as well. I don't think there's any harm in flying a flag either. I don't generally fly a flag myself because I'm not really into that sort of thing. But like, you're allowed to fly your flags. People are offended by a flag. I don't know why. Well, I know why, because history. But we're not there now. We're different now. So just enjoy yourselves. If you want to fly a flag, enjoy yourself, enjoy it. This is literally for the World Cup. These all come down after the World Cup because I'd rather look at my gremlin stuff than look at these flags being everywhere. It doesn't bother me anyway. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I just really wanted to get to sort of like my point across about this because of the trailer stuff and everyone else's opinions, and it's fascinating to talk about. So thank you very much, guys. I'll see you all very soon.